Hello everyone, and thank you as always for tuning into this month's edition of our Greater Vancouver Market Update, the place where you can always count on getting unspun, unbiased analysis of the Greater Vancouver housing market. If you find these videos informative, please feel free to pass them along to a friend, leave a comment down below, and be sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube so that you don't miss out on any future episodes. All right, it's certainly an interesting time in the market right now. We've had an amazing run of sensational weather here in Vancouver, which has kept both buyers and agents thoroughly distracted. And getting a read on the market during the summer months is a real crapshoot at the best of times. But we're in fairly unique territory right now. Interest rates are at the highest level we've seen them in over 20 years. And despite the government telling us that inflation is down largely due to low gas prices, cost of living remains extremely high. So, are we to believe the headlines? Well, for that, let's take a closer look at the numbers. We'll start off with the stats report from the Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver, which recorded 2,455 sales in the month of July. Now, this is a 17.8% drop from the previous month, but it's also a very typical seasonal decrease. When we look at how this figure fares from a historical perspective, last month's sales volume came in at 15.6% below the 10-year average for the month of July, which makes headlines like this one a bit of a head scratcher. Now, the argument will be made that on a year-over-year basis, sales are actually up nearly 29% from July 2022. But last July, the Bank of Canada hit us with a full percentage point increase to their overnight interest rate, which was the equivalent of pulling the emergency brake on the market. So the year-over-year figure is a bit misleading. Next, let's take a look at the active listings, which came in at 10,301, just a 3.1% increase from the previous month and almost identical to the levels we saw in July of last year when we had 10,288 active listings. And so with sales slowing and inventory rising by a bit, market pressure continues to ease off, resulting in our months of inventory to rise to 4.2 MOI, in range with what is typically considered balanced market territory. But even with the market easing, prices continue to inch up, now registering at 1.21 million according to the board's home price index model. This is a 0.6% increase from the previous month and a 0.5% increase over a year ago. So the headlines say that sales are strong, the stats indicate that prices are rising, but is that really the case on the streets? For that, let's take a closer look at what's happening, boots on the ground. Despite the headlines and the stats, there is little doubt now that the market has turned a corner. Remember, these stats are put together using computer models of sales that took place during the entire month of July, and those sales were negotiated using comparables from the previous 60 to 90 days. Which is why it's very important to understand that stats are a lagging indicator of what is actually happening day to day. For us personally, we have seen the number of listings that we're holding rise, particularly for this time of year, as usually sellers prefer to list in the fall rather than the summer. And generally speaking, inquiries on said listings have been very quiet. What's interesting, however, is that traffic at open houses has been quite strong. We had 16 groups through a townhouse listing in the Valley this past weekend and 14 groups through a 2-bedroom condo the previous weekend. But this traffic is not necessarily resulting in quick sales. Things have been moving, but the negotiation process has definitely been a grind. The vast majority of offers that we've been seeing coming in on our listings have been well below the asking price, which I believe is happening throughout the market and is causing a bit of a stalemate in the market. Buyers are pricing in the current interest rate environment, while sellers are holding on to values that we saw 90 to 120 days ago. And confusing headlines from the board really don't help the reality of the situation. The date that everyone in our industry has circled on their calendar is September 4th. This is the next scheduled rate announcement by the Bank of Canada. Right now, sentiment is split 50-50 as to whether the central bank will once again raise rates after 2 consecutive hikes. However, with the Fed in the United States recently raising their rates, and with the Canadian inflation numbers jumping back up past the bank's 3% target, it's starting to look more and more likely that we will see an increase in September. Now, last month I made a comment about the pipelines of mortgage brokers and how there are simply very few buyers getting qualified for new mortgages. However, from the conversations I've had with my colleagues recently, things aren't as quiet as they once were. I'm being told that new mortgage inquiries have picked up substantially, and a lot of it seems to be predicated on renters being given eviction notices because their units have sold or are going up for sale. I mentioned last month how I believe the first shoe to drop in the fall market will be the investor condo market. Those landlords that are holding on to multiple properties will likely be under pressure to liquidate some of those assets. This in turn will cause a musical chairs situation to start to happen, as some of these renters will want to jump into the market rather than competing with current rental prices, which are absolutely out of control right now. The problem is, when these renters, many of whom make really good money, see how much they can qualify for after an 8% stress test, they may not like the options that they have available for them at the current prices, which could potentially cause a stalemate or force those that absolutely have to sell to have to take a haircut on their properties. All right, that's it for me for this month. Hope you've enjoyed your summer so far. Enjoy the rest of it, and I'll catch you right back here in about a month's time. Take care, everyone.